Hi, I'm Dr. Gail James, and this is From Trauma to Triumph. I'm here today to talk about, today we want to talk about being the black sheep, being the black sheep, being the generational curse breaker. Um, I'm going to give you the scripture and then I'm going to talk to you about how to heal from trauma and how to get your joy back and your peace back. Matthew 20, verse 16 says, so the last shall be first, and the first shall be last. I didn't know what that scripture meant, even though I've been baptized since I was 13. I didn't know what that scripture meant. I've been in church all my life, and I didn't really know what that scripture meant until I became an adult. I am the survivor of childhood sexual abuse. I was molested by three of my male siblings. And at the age of 10, I went to school and I ended up bleeding. And I told my teacher took me to the nurse, and the nurse called, asked me what happened. And I told her what happened. And when she looked at me, she said, I'm gonna have to call the police. And I was like, oh man, I'm gonna be in trouble. But she did. I saw three unmarked detective cars showed up in the school with the sirens on, and I was like, man, I'm gonna be in trouble. And I could remember that day. I am 52 years old, and I could remember that day like yesterday. My mom stood at the door of the nurse's office and put her hands on her hips and looked at me and said, what did you do? And rolled her eyes. And I remember them telling her, and I was born and raised in the U.S. Virgin Islands. For some of you that don't know, so I was born and raised on an island, 32 square miles. It's small. Everybody know everybody. Everybody look like me. The police, the doctors, the lawyers, the teachers, the judges. Everybody look like me. So everybody knew everybody. So they told my mom, since it was a family matter, they'll allow her to take me home, but they'll give her a week to try to work it through, and they'll have to come back so they could finalize the investigation. And I remember that moment. I got home. My mom took me home and she called my brother, my one of my oldest brothers. He is a pastor. And she called him, and her exact words were, you will not believe what Gail did. You have to come over here now because Gail done made a mess at the school. And so he came. And when he came, he started questioning my brother. My brother is 21 years old at the time. I'm 10. He started questioning my brother. My brother kept saying, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. Then he agreed. He said, no, he didn't do any penetration. He did fingering. And eventually he admitted. And once he admitted, I thought at that time I was going to get hugs and love. And I'm so sorry. My brother, that's the pastor, did say, I know you're lying because look at the clothes she has on. She has on somebody else's clothes. It's not her uniform. You did something to her. So my brother, that let me know that my brother believed me. And I remember my mom looking at me, and my brother admitted at that point. He said, yes, I did it. I'm sorry. My mother said, you worthless, good for nothing dog. You knew what you were doing and you wanted it. At that very moment, I felt as a 10-year-old rejection, abandonment, hopelessness, fear, and my life was never the same from that day forward. So I ended up in the house with my mother and my siblings that no longer liked me. I became the black sheep instantly. Nobody liked me after that. I have 11 siblings on my mother's side, and that's all of the mother siblings. Yes, 11 of them. Nobody would talk to me. I was the black sheep, and I didn't really understand how profound that is. So at this point, a week goes by, and the Department of Human Services in the Virgin Islands pulls up to our house. I'll never forget that day. It's a white 15 passenger van. They come in the house and they said to my mom, "We gave you a week and we didn't hear back from you. What are you going to do?" And she said, I didn't do anything yet. And I remember the lady saying this: "You chose your adult child, so we're going to have to choose your minor child." And they said, "Gail, put your shoes on." And I'm looking like, put my shoes on? Where am I going? And I put my shoes on and I was escorted out of the home with human services. The Virgin Islands did not have good healthcare system. So I was put in the only facility in the US Virgin Islands. It was a group home for bad girls. When I say bad girls, this is going to be crazy, but yes. I was sharing a twin bed with a maybe 15-year-old girl. She was sneaking men in through the window and they having sex on the bed while I'm on the bed. Like we bumping elbows. I'm like, I just went from the pot to the frying pan. This is worse than where I was. So I ran away. And I remember I used to babysit for these people. And I went to their house. Wrong move. They called the police. And they came and they took me back to the group home for bad girls. And I eventually ran away again. And when they found me, they said, if you're going to keep running away, you're going to have to make a choice to go back to your family home or stay in this home. But it's one or the other. So I chose to go back to the home. I'm an adult and I really don't understand why I made that choice. I think I made that choice because I felt like I knew my family somehow, some kind of familiarity with it. It was good. But I went back home. My life was never the same. I stayed in the home and suffered abuse from my mother until the age of 14 when she broke my arm with a mop stick. When she broke my arm with a mop stick at that point, I decided that I was going to go ahead and get some kind of care, like get my hand bandaged or cast or whatever. It was broken. And I remember one of my brothers asking her, I say, "Can we use your car to take Gail to the hospital?" And she said, "No, if you touch my car, I will break you too." So I waited until everybody went to sleep. I put some clothes in in a black garbage bag, threw it out the window, went through the window, and there was an old black BMW on the top of the road that the trunk never closed. And I threw the bag of clothes in the trunk and I walked to the hospital. I got to the hospital and they said, "We are not touching you. You are a minor. You're gonna have to bring an adult back." In the US Virgin Islands, my mom used to sell fruits and vegetables on the side of the highway. So I knew there were people that used to come to the food stand while I was there and they'd make jokes and stuff with me. So I knew this one guy, he was 19. And I called him and he said, I'll come sign you into the hospital. So he came, he signed me in and they casted my hand and I left with him. And everything was good. We was really cool. We became real good friends. But boy, I tell you, when you're not healed, you will settle for things you don't even need to be settling for. And we ended up getting into a relationship. When I met this man, he had no kids. By the time I left him, he had 6 kids, including mine. Um, I was the worst case of serious domestic violence I've ever experienced. This man hit me in the back of my head with a 9mm gun. He kidnapped me with a 12 gauge and a 9mm gun for a whole week. He kicked me in my ribs with steel toe boots. Everything you could think about was done to me. And I just don't understand how somebody can say they love you and do these things. as I'm older now and more mature and more emotionally intelligent, I understand that I settled for those things because I didn't know my self-worth. I was not healed from the childhood trauma. And now here's another trauma going on top of it, domestic violence. And so I'm settling for this because in my mind, he must really love me because he's taking care of me, he's helping me. I tell you what, I remember he beat me so bad one day. He cheated on me and he got the two girls pregnant at the same time. And he's going to the homes and telling me he's going to check on the children, but he's actually going and sleeping with the girl. And so I asked him about it. This man kicked me with steel toe boots on. My ribs were all bruised up, punched me in the face, black eyes. And I remember locking myself in the bathroom. And at that point, I knew I didn't want to live anymore. I took a whole bottle of Tylenol, and all I did was throw up, just vomit, just vomit. And when that didn't work, I looked under the bathroom sink and I saw bleach, and I just took the bottle and tilted up to my head, and I drank the bleach. And I'm standing there looking at the medicine cabinet, the mirror on the medicine cabinet, like waiting for when I'm gonna drop to the floor and die. And as you can tell, I never died because I'm still here. But that's how far gone I was. And that's why, even now, as a therapist, as a trauma therapist, I urge people to heal. Because when you're not healed, you settle for things that you should not even settle for. You do not know your self worth. You don't love yourself enough. You're not emotionally intelligent enough to know how to communicate your actions or to recognize red flags, because I look at where I am now and I look back at what I went through and I'm like, that was a big red flag. I just let that go right over my head. And I remember getting mad at God because I didn't drop to the floor and die. And years later, God's response to me was, what make you think you could take your life? I gave you life. All that you've been through is for a reason. It wasn't for you. It's for the people you needed to help. You can't kill yourself because when you were in your mother's womb, I have purpose and destiny in you before you were even born. You can't take yourself out. And that's why, as a trauma therapist, I urge my clients to heal from the very things that hurt you to your core. Because when you're walking around on this earth as an unhealed version of yourself, you bleed on people that didn't cut you. You cut sharp as a knife with your tongue. You cut sharp as a knife with your actions. And people don't understand that it's the people before you, the hurters, not the healers, that have hurt you. And now you're hurting your healers. You got to know the difference between your hurters and your healers. I sit before you today proudly as a domestic violence advocate, a childhood sexual abuse advocate, a licensed clinical trauma therapist. I specialize in this because I understood that what I needed when I was going through is what I want to be for others that are going through it now. Healing is so important. It is important to heal. You know, I went through rejection, abandonment, abuse. And one thing I find profound about going through those things is I was so much more focused on wanting my 11 siblings to love me and appreciate me and understand why I had to tell my story. Can you imagine being traumatized from age 5, 6? being sexually abused by grown adult male siblings, and telling, and your whole family turning against you and saying they're mad at you because you told the family secret. This is not a secret because not I'm the one hurting, the one hurting. So yes, I'm the generational curse breaker. I broke the generational curses because I refuse for those curses to be on my children or my grandchildren. It starts with me. It starts here and it starts now. You have to heal and heal authentically so you can be the best version of yourself. When you go through life as an unhealed person, you damage so many people on your path. Healing is fundamental, it's instrumental, it's fundamental, it is necessary. I am glad that I took the time to heal. I went to counseling. In addition of going to counseling, I prayed to God. I asked God to forgive all my abusers. And I asked God to forgive me for hurting myself. Forgive me for not loving myself. Forgive me for not knowing my self worth. When you don't know your self worth, man, you will put yourself on the clearance rack for 50 cents and you really worth 50 billion. You see the big difference in the price? But that's the difference in knowing your self worth and not knowing your self worth. You have to believe in yourself, baby. Because if you don't believe in yourself, you will never understand what you could truly accomplish. How am I going to sell myself to you if I don't even believe in what I'm telling you? You got to believe in self. You got to love self. You got to understand. For me, I'm going to be transparent and honest. When I made the decision to leave my first domestic violence relationship, I did it not for me, but for my daughter. I found out I was pregnant for him, and I knew what I had been through. And at that moment that they told me I was pregnant, I was going to enroll in the army. I did everything. And back then in the Virgin Islands, you had to fly to Puerto Rico to in order to get your physical done. And I did everything. That was the last step before I swear in the military. And I flew to Puerto Rico to get the physical, and they said, you cannot go to that military. You're pregnant. Baby, that was the most heartbreaking, detrimental thing. But once I figured that out, though I looked at it as like, man, I lost something because I really wanted to go to the army and I could no longer go because I'm pregnant. It was the best thing that ever happened to me because had she not been conceived, I would not have learned that I needed to heal. I didn't heal for me, I healed for her. I left the relationship. And once I left the relationship, I just decided I'm going to do this for me. He beat me in the relationship. Imagine you 14 years old, have your own apartment. You go to school on the very far east side and you live on the very far north side. You have to walk and catch rides every morning to go to school. You work 2 jobs after school. You go to work at a sign shop where you paint signs that they hang up outside of businesses. And then you leave there and you go to Wendy's and you work to Wendy's till 2:30 in the morning. You catch a ride, you go home, and then you do it all over again to go to school the next day. That was my life as a teenager. And I'm not going to say it gets worse because for me, there was nothing better than getting my daughter. My daughter was born 2 weeks before my high school graduation. She was diagnosed with cerebral palsy. She has not never walked in her life. They told me she was not going to live past a year. She is 34 years old right now. Still, still a quadriplegic, still in a wheelchair, still in diapers. But you know what? She's alive and she talks. She started talking at age 8. She had 9 horrific surgeries to try to make her walk and try to make her talk. And at age 8, she came out of the operating room talking after one of those surgeries. And so I'm grateful for my miracle and my gift. And I'm telling you this because I want you to understand that great, we have great testimonies from our trials and our struggles. We have great success from our struggles. That is the best thing that could have ever happened to me is my daughter. My daughter made me become mature. She made me become a mother. She made me become an entrepreneur. Because of my daughter being born with cerebral palsy, I opened my first business at the age of 24. I opened group homes for the developmentally disabled. And I grossed over $600,000 a year back then in 1999 for 2 group homes. Again, I say what I got from it is I was so frustrated with God and angry with God and so depressed that God, like, how much are you going to give me? I can't take anymore. The abuse, the rejection, the abandonment. I'm tired. But remember, God told me it's not for me. It's for people, the other people that are going to need me. And truth be told, I'd have been like, God, I don't want to go through this for people. This is frustrating. It's disheartening. It's disappointing. But I went through it and I sit before you today as an entrepreneur, as a licensed therapist that has been through childhood sexual abuse, domestic violence, suicide attempts. I now know how to be to people what I wanted when I was going through. All the things the struggles that I faced in my life, the childhood sexual abuse, the domestic violence, the suicidal attempts, those pushed me to become a licensed therapist. My daughter being born 2 weeks before my high school graduation and being diagnosed with cerebral palsy and being disabled taught me how to care for individuals who couldn't care for themselves. So now I own home health care agencies and mental health practices, group homes. So the very thing that the enemy meant to use to kill you can be the very thing that God uses to shift you, to upgrade you, to propel you to your purpose. Don't despise humble beginnings. I come from humble beginnings. But I'm here to tell you as a testimony, like, it wasn't always easy. And the 11 siblings still don't talk to me. But I won't care with that. Because that scripture I said to you in the beginning of this segment, the first shall be last and the last shall be first. My mom said I wouldn't be nothing. My mom said I was a good for nothing. My siblings said I was the worst in the family. I'm the family's first entrepreneur. I'm the family's first high top earner. I'm not gonna say how much I earn, but I'm the family first high top earner in the entire of all 12 children. I raised my daughter by myself. She's disabled, but I did it all by myself. Me and God. And so I urge you, my reason for saying this is I want you to understand that we go through things in life, and if we don't heal, we are not effective or we don't have substance to pour into others. We are literally pouring from empty cups. because our cup has been depleted, because it took everything we had in us to fight to get through the trauma we came through. So heal so that you could get from trauma to triumph. It's essential, it's necessary, and it's for your good. I encourage you to heal. It's the best gift you can ever give to yourself. Heal so you can be the best version of yourself. But not only heal so that you could be the best version of yourself, heal so that you can go from trauma to triumph, and you can go from pain and be propelled into your purpose. It's the best thing you can ever do for yourself. Hi, I'm Dr. Gil James, your trauma therapist here. I wanted you to know about this book that I wrote that's on Amazon. The name is From the Pit to the Palace. You can go to Amazon and purchase this book. I also have my new book and workbook that is launching on January 10th. The name of the book is You Can Heal. You can find it on Amazon also. I promise you won't be disappointed with these books. You can read and do the workbook to help you through your trauma journey. Thank you for your support. I look forward to connecting with you on all my social media platforms.